Are you thinking of a career in IT, but you're not sure where to get started? Well, you've come to the right place. I've compiled a list of my videos that will help you as a beginner's guide to start a career in IT. So, what are some of the topics? Well, we'll look at, is an IT career right for you? Should you even get started in an IT career? Next, we'll go into, what are some of the essential training that you'll need to get started? What are some of the tech skills, the technical skills that you'll need, or even some of the soft skills that are needed to be successful in IT? And also, when you're even looking for a job, how to get noticed, how to write a resume that will get noticed. And also, when you're interviewing for a job, what do the managers what are they looking for when they're interviewing someone? So there's some tips for you as well. I hope you enjoy, and we'll get started. So the question is an IT career good for you? And we're going to break that up into two different parts. Let's first talk about, is IT a good career? And so we're going to actually, one of the things you might be thinking about is, well, what is the job forecast? Can I get a job in IT? Will I be employed? What's the salary like? And so I've done a little research, and looking at this website, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they do a lot of surveying, understanding what the job market's like. And this report here shared actually came back out from 2023, but it said that these occupations, computer and information technology occupations, is projected to grow faster than average for all occupations for the next 10 years. And it said about over 300,000 openings each year on average are expected to be opened every year. So that's a lot of jobs coming into the field. Now, what could you expect to be paid? Well, here it even says a median annual wage for this group is about $100,000. Now, median is like right in the middle, so you wouldn't expect to get paid starting that, but you can eventually get to that point if you stayed stuck with it. Now, how does that compare to all other occupations? Well, it says annual wages for all of the occupations is about $48,000. And so that's a lot higher. It's almost double. And this report came out in 2023, so it's almost a couple years old. There was a website on Forbes, and it actually broke down the average salary for the U.S. And now this is for all salaries, not just IT, but you can kind of see based off where you are located. It kind of says California's high, 73,000. Um, you go to some of these other ones, 48 in Arkansas. I'll leave a link in the description here, and you can kind of see, what state you're in and what the average salary is. And really, you want to see, okay, well, what is it for IT? And you can just increase that based off this that we looked at here. Also, you might think about and will I get a job? What's the unemployment rate? While here in Computer World .com, it talked about how many jobs are there, and it mentioned that the unemployment rate for technology professionals is actually down to 2.5%, compared to about 4% for other jobs. So that's a pretty good. You're thinking that you're likely to get hired, even if you need to look for a new job. There's a good possibility you'll be hired on again. So the job forecast is very promising, especially with new technologies being opened all the time, being developed, applied in businesses. You have a great opportunity to get a job where you can get paid well and would have good benefits. But now let's talk about some of the pros and cons. Some of the pros are, there's a lot of opportunities. You can go in a lot of different areas. One of the big areas right now is AI. And really, what does AI do? Well, right now it's helping businesses automate tasks that people are doing, repetitive tasks. And so if you're able to come into a company and say, hey, I can help automate you, save time, uh, build processes out that will help the business grow, then that's going to be that's going to be great. There's other areas to go into, like you can get into cloud computing, storage in the cloud, some of the traditional ones like infrastructure, networking, telecom. And but normally you kind of get started in support. You kind of learn there a bit, and then you kind of branch off into these specialized areas. You can also get into management. That's a good career too if you want to have manage a team, lead a department. That's something that you can also do as well. Um, I like IT because it's in the technology area. You're never working on the same thing over and over again. Um, the jobs change. Like the things I was doing 10 years ago is not what I'm doing now. The technology that I'm working on now is different. So there's always opportunity for you to learn and grow no matter how long you've been in IT. One of the other things I like is just is IT is a bit more casual too. It's a little bit more laid back. So I like that because that's just kind of fits with my own personality. Now, what are some of the cons? Well, some of the cons is IT jobs are not the highest paying jobs. There's other higher paying jobs out there. There's jobs like software developers. They, on average, get paid more than IT jobs. That's really because they're helping build products or something to help that the business can then go and sell. So those jobs get paid more. IT is often seen as a cost center. And what does that mean? Well, that means IT's there to help run the business, but it looks like a cost, like a needed cost that you need to run the business. So what happens? Well, a lot of times the top leadership is looking for ways to cut costs, and sometimes it comes at the detriment to IT and the staff. And so there, I've seen where a whole company outsourced their whole entire IT department, and then now they use that other company to do their IT support or their IT work, and so there's no actual employees of the company in IT anymore. And so that's one of the downsides because sometimes there can be layoffs, especially in tech. There's always layoffs happening, shifts, workforce shifts that happening, and so that's something you kind of have to deal with. It may not be something where you stick with one company for 10, 20, 30 years. You might be moving around a bit. I also think that my mindset is, if the IT leadership can see not just like, hey, this is what we're doing to help run the business, but this is how we can help the business to innovate, to help it to have a competitive advantage, then that really shows the value of IT, not just the necessary things that IT does, as as people may think. So you may be asking, should I get into IT? That's a specific question to you as the viewer right now. Is this the right fit for you? And so I'll give you an analogy that I like basketball, so I like to play basketball. So when someone says, "Oh, I want to learn more and play basketball," they're not automatically good at playing basketball, but they have this desire to want to learn more. And so what do? Well, you maybe watch some games and watch people play. You understand the rules, and then you actually go out and practice yourself. Then you're learning how to dribble, you're learning how to shoot, and then you may actually get in games. You're playing in games, you're learning from other people. But what drives you is that motivation, that passion that you have for the game, because you're not getting paid for it. You're not getting paid to play basketball unless you're an NBA player. But even NBA players, they weren't born being paid to play basketball. They had to put in the time, the effort, they had the passion to learn it. So you too, if you're learning, if you want to learn IT and get into that career, you need that passion already in it for technology, learning how things work, even the back ends, like how does this work, tinkering with things. You like to fix things. Having that passion will help you get into that area. Um, Another one is helping people. You might maybe you have to know that this is not just a job where you're just going to sit in the back corner. There might be a few set of jobs, but mostly you're working with your team members. You're working with people that you support. These areas that require you to be a good team member and help others. So think about that. Do I really like that? Do I like working with other people? And do I like helping other people? Do I like solving their problems? That's something to think about. So, that's something for you to answer yourself. Because I've had other people ask me like, "Oh, I want to get into IT." I'm like, "Okay, well, why? Is it just because of the pay?" You kind of already need to have that desire in technology to be successful in it. So you say, "Okay, well, I do want to get into IT. How do you get started?" Well, there's two areas that I would say are the biggest areas. One is learning IT and technology, and two is doing, like the experience that you get. So the learning part is, learn as much as you can. Watch videos like these, online classes. You can go to school for IT. I went to college. I went to City College. I learned IT in those areas. Take those technical classes. Um, Even practicing on your own. You can practice on your own. Tinkering with things. You're yourself learning about how things work. Um, and the experience, that's just part of the experience part. Another thing you can do is try to get an internship. Start out small. Um, you have to shoot for the sky. You just start out in stages. Start out small. Like at first, I got an internship when I first came out of college, and then I gradually built my way up, and to became more specialized, and then got into management as well. So uh, be willing to learn from others. That's a great quality to have. And so just take those two things. Um, Learning what you can, teaching yourself, and then gaining experience, getting hands on the job. That's how you can actually get started in IT. The first thing you should be thinking about is identify the end. Where do you want to be? And so here's some places, areas that you can get into IT if you're thinking about this, getting into this field. And there's various different areas you can get into, but knowing where you want to be will help you when you're getting started because they'll tell you which steps that you need to take to reach that goal. And there's different areas. I've listed some here, like IT support. There's networking, cybersecurity, data analytics, cloud computing, AI. All of these different areas require different skill sets. But knowing where you want to go, and you might want to just do a little research, see what interests you, and then you can see, okay, well, I think this one's the most interesting one, and that will give you a starting point to work from. And even ask people, maybe people you know, or even people you don't know, like, hey, will you tell me a little bit about this role? What's it like? And see if it sounds interesting to you, and really see if it's something that you'd want to do day in and day out, and even doing some job research too. What's the um, capacity like? What's the revenue? The salaries are like for this area. So okay, so let's think about it. Okay, so let's say you want to get one particular area. Now, uh, what else would you need? Well, you start with the foundational uh, skills, the basics. And I think anybody in technology should know these areas, even if they get specialized in one area, because no matter what you get into, there's always you need to understand how the computer works, how the operating system works, how data is stored on computers, how data is transferred between different systems, how the hardware works, and then also how to troubleshoot some of these basic issues. Even if you're working in like networking, you need to know how the basis of the computer works, and sometimes so you can isolate the problem. Like, okay, is this a networking problem or is this a computer problem? So having those foundational troubleshooting skills will help you in the long run, and also learning network basics. That's very important because everything we do is on the internet. All the data is traveling from one system to another system, and understanding how that works will help you if you're building something, you're working with data. Understanding how networks work will really help you along the way. So I recommend everybody learn just the basics of technology in this area. Now, let's help you choose your path. And there's very different paths. And I would recommend actually not just choosing one, but choosing multiple ones of these, even all of them if you can, because these different paths will help you find out um, help you understand and learn what it is and what it takes to get into the specific role you're trying to get into. So let's talk about the first one here, online courses. Now, there's plenty of online courses out there. There's some free ones, there's some paid ones, and I actually share with you some of the ones that I've used personally in the past that's helped me to continue to grow my knowledge in technology. So I'll share here a website here. It's called Udemy, and this one is it's like a content creator for online courses for people maybe who've done that role or job for a long time, and they create their own online course and they put it up for sale on this website. So Udemy doesn't actually create the content; it's just a platform for content creators, instructors to put their online classes there. So you can search for a wide variety of areas, including like IT certifications, data science. There's one common one called the CompTIA, and is the A plus is one of the basic ones of like understanding IT, computer basics, the operating system. And I just looked at this one for example, and you can look at these classes, and normally they're not too expensive. Like these here are $15. They're on sale right now. Normally, there's always a sale happening. But um, they'll have a list of the different courses that they have, um, and they'll list out what you'll learn in this class. Sometimes they're like practice exams. It says like 18 hours worth of videos, and you can even preview some of it to see if you like the instructor or not. And just make sure that you're actually getting the right one because sometimes the exam number, maybe it's an updated exam, and it's the 1101 is last year's edition. Now there's like 1102, that's the latest exam. So just make sure that you're grabbing the right one. But it even shows you like how many people rated this, how many people took this class. 100, over 100,000 people just took this one class here. So this one's pretty popular. Now you had to buy just one class one at a time, and that's I think that's pretty good for the money right there. But if you want it all you can eat, there's this other one, CBT Nuggets, and this one's focused on IT training specifically. And I had this at a company I used to work for. It was great because I loved it because I can go in like, oh, I want to learn this, I want to learn this, and they had all these different training courses that you can choose, like Cisco training, Microsoft training, the CompTIA training, 16 courses for that, 119 courses for Microsoft. And so you can even choose the paths. Like, okay, like I want to be a network administrator, network engineer, cloud technologies, cybersecurity. So you can take these classes that will help you understand the basics of it, the foundational knowledge, and help you get ready for an exam. Now, some of those certifications I was talking about here at CompTIA certifications, they have all sorts of certifications. You look at the A plus, there's like ITF, fundamentals, tech plus, security plus. This is the one I took, security plus, network plus, cloud plus, learning about cloud technologies, Linux, servers, some more security, data, you get certification data, project management, cloud essentials. So there's so much there for you to learn if you want to, and you can take those certifications as you go. Now, one word of advice is that just because you took a class and passed the exam doesn't mean you're the expert in it, because um, you just took in knowledge and you said, "Yeah, I know how to pass the exam," but it doesn't really give you the real world experience of actually doing that job. And so I've interviewed many people, and I've seen looked at their resumes, and it says that they're certified in this, whatever it might be, Jamf Pro or something. And I said, okay, Azure. And I said, okay, tell me a little bit about this certification. Tell me what you know. and they kind of got stumbled because they weren't ready to answer a question on that, and they couldn't answer the basics. I was like, okay, just tell me some of the basics of this that I knew, and they couldn't even explain that, even though they said that they certified, they learned it. When someone said, "Oh, that was a year ago," I was like, okay, well, you should understand just some of it. Or sometimes they take the certification, but they don't get the hands on, and they say, okay, well, I kind of learned it, but you didn't have that application to it. So just something to think about, and that kind of goes on to what we're talking about in other ones here as we'll get into like hands-on experience. Try to get hands-on experience as much as you can. Like when you're learning something, try to apply it. Try to build it. Build your own website. Build your own, cloud infrastructure. Build your own network. Try to do it in your own job if it allows you in certain areas. Um, get that hands-on experience that will help you now and apply what you learned. Now, another area is degrees. That's another way you can a learning path you can take. And I've kind of gone through the different areas. One is no degree. Then you can get like an AS degree, which is like a 2-year degree if you went to school full time. And then there's a bachelor's degree, which is a 4-year degree. And then another 2 years after that, you can get a master's degree. Now, so I've gotten technology jobs without a degree, and I've gotten jobs with an AS degree, and also with a bachelor's degree. It's as far as I went. I didn't quite go all the way to master's. Um, So you may be wondering, well, do I need a degree to get into an IT job? And the answer is it depends. Um, I've uh, I've actually been passed up for a job because I didn't have the degree. I was an internship at a private university, and I was in their IT, and the person that I was working under, they were leaving the company, and so they were looking to fill that spot. And so they liked me. They said, "Oh, we liked you. You worked with us in the past as an internship. We'd like to interview." So I interviewed them. I met the provost, which is like the president of the school, and they liked me. But what that ended up happening is said, "Well, we noticed on your resume you don't have an AS degree," and so I actually got passed up for that job, just because I didn't have a degree. Even though they they liked me, they knew I could do the job because I was doing the job before, but I just didn't have that degree. But there's also another example where I was working for an IT director and he had no degree at all. It wasn't until later is when he had the degree. And so he came in and it wasn't until later is when he completed his degree and then he had it already being an IT director. So it just depends, especially with which area you're getting into, how hard those requirements are. A lot of times uh, hiring managers will substitute experience for education. So if you have a lot of experience, they'll be like, okay, well, you don't have the degree we're looking for. Here's here's what we'll take your experience as a replacement for that. So those are some areas that you can get into. Um, online courses, certificates, degrees. You can go to even start with City College, go to university, work on some personal projects, get hands-on experience wherever you can. These are areas that will really help you to get the foundational knowledge and education you need to start your career in IT. And the last thing is just to continue learning. Don't stop with what you did, that year or those months. Continue learning because IT is always changing, and you're always going to be learning new things. And always stay up to date. You'll be up to date with the latest cutting edge technology. The first one is cloud infrastructure. Gone are the days when you would build server racks and you maintain your data center. It's very costly. Now, a lot of the skills are going to learning about the cloud infrastructure, how to set up virtual servers in Azure, AWS, Google Cloud Provider. And so learning those skills on how to maintain cloud infrastructure, including the networks, that's a skill to have that if you're certified in them, if you have experience in that, That's what companies are looking for now. Number two is automation. And automation is key because you're going to help automate repetitive tasks, saving people time, a lot of people time on your own team. Now, it used to be you would code and script like in Python or C Sharp, but now there's applications out there, services where you can do low code or even no code, and you're building these integrations. I remember one person on our team, he was a whiz at that, and he was very valuable to the team because he saved our teams many hours of repetitive tasks. Number three is learning how to train AI. And so I'm not talking about the deep diving into it, of actually building the AI, but actually being able to train the bot for your specific use case or your specific company. There's a lot of AI services out there, but they need to be tailored to your use cases, maybe building out the workflows. How does the AI work? It kind of goes along with the automation part. We're using AI to automate many of the tasks, but they just need to be altered to work with whatever specific task you want to give it to. A good example that I've seen is a Core AI, and that is, it gives you a whole platform on how to configure the AI for specific jobs to do, and it'll just repeat that job over and over again. Skill number four, device management. Now, even though a lot of the servers are all up in the cloud, what do we still have in front of us? Well, we still have a laptop, a computer in front of us. And we take that computer or laptop wherever we go. And so we may not even be in the office where there's traditional security that you would say that was in the office. Now we're in, working from anywhere, coffee shops. So having the understanding on how to manage these devices through mobile device management like Intune or Jamf Pro, being able to secure these devices so that they're hardened, so they're not open to attacks, and also keeping them up to date on the latest patches and the latest operating system updates. That whole encompassing of managing the endpoints is big because the employees, especially in the US, they've gone all over the places, so we still need to keep them secure, even more so than maybe if it was a desktop sitting in an office. Skill number four, identity management. Your identity is the key thing that gives you access to everything else in the company. So it gives you access to apps, to resources, and you're authenticating into that identity provider, like Active Directory in Azure, what they call it Entra ID now, or Okta. And so when you have these skills, you're able to build out authentication policies, build out automations to give people access to certain applications that they may need to do. That's a core central hub to everybody's access. So understanding how identity management works and be able to build it out, look at the different capabilities it has, that's one that's going to go a long ways. The next one is database management. Now, data is like the gold to businesses now. Whatever data it might be data on people, it might be data on cars, it might be data on whatever that business is in. But they might have a lot of data and they don't know how to pull out the useful information out of there. So if you can learn skills on how to master that data, pull it on again together, build analytics, build dashboards, build reports, then that's key. That's going to drive the business to make better decisions based off the data they're already gathering, but now they're making decisions based off that. The next one is SaaS management. It's coming to the point where we need to manage all of these SaaS vendors, and it takes effort to understand the different contracts, the different features, negotiations, when there's renewals. Being able to manage all those SaaS apps is important because they're getting so many that sometimes you need to get a handle. You can lose a handle on what it is that you actually have. If everybody's just signing up for apps, you don't know what team this is using or what team these apps are using. The next one is network configuration. Now, networks have been around for a long time, and like I had mentioned, a lot of it's dispersed, but you still need some basic network understanding, because networks are what connects all the computers together. And so you need to understand how the networks work, from Wi-Fi routing to DNS to IP addressing, the ISO model. Those type of skills are essential because it ties into so many things you're doing, maybe when you're troubleshooting an app or a computer, or how things are getting connected. The next two are just the basics of understanding how computer hardware works, how the CPU and the memory and the storage all work together. So when you're troubleshooting things, even if you're building an app, how that app uses the resources on the computer. And the last one is understanding the operating system, especially Windows and Mac are the two biggest ones. And not only understanding how to use it, but also how to administer it, even into the command line or the terminal, because there's even settings that are not in the GUI, but you need to run different commands, and you can always look them up, but understanding how they work and how to call and manipulate the OS, that's always a key skill to have, especially when you're troubleshooting it, when you're helping someone understand what's going on with the operating system or showing them how to use it. So those were the top 10 technology skills I recommend every IT person has, or if you're looking for a job or up-leveling your skills. Now let's talk about how to develop those skills. Now we could all go to formal training. Maybe we can go to get some, take some course and get certified. You may even be able to ask your company, your manager, hey, is there any budget for training? Because I would like to learn this. I think this is very helpful to our team. And if someone came to me asking for that, I'd be like, yeah, let me see if there's budget if you want to learn something, as long as it fit with what there was a need for in the team. There's also videos you can look up. You can look at free videos on YouTube or Udemy, where they have courses of experts servicing hours and hours of videos that you can watch to help teach you on these skills. Another way to develop your skills is to teach yourself. It's just go out there and do it and learn how these things work. A lot of these services I talked about, they'll give you a free trial. You can go sign up for free and plug around, see how things work. That's how I learned on my own to just get started with, is just tinkering with things, being curious on how things work and how if you change things, how they will go about. The last one, recommendation is just to practice these skills, because maybe you read on it, but now you need to practice it, maybe in your job, or maybe you need to ask someone, hey, can I shadow you? And maybe I can do a little portion of it so that you can start learning these skills. You're not going to get good overnight, but as you practice it day in and day out, you'll get better at it. First soft skill is communication. Now, communication is so key because without it, how can you transmit ideas or what you're planning on doing? If there's communication breakdown, it's just not going to work. And that goes for just about for any job. But key in technology, especially when you're trying to communicate technical terms to someone who's not technical. That's also key. You're explaining to them what you're going to do, but not going over their head at the same time. And there's also could be a language barrier. I mean, we have people on our team that are from different countries. And so sometimes there's that culture difference, but we still need to be able to communicate our thoughts and ideas. The next skill is willing to learn. So we need to be willing to learn new things, having that drive to wanting to learn new things. Because the tech industry is always changing. What you did in your job 5 years ago, 3 years ago, you're probably doing something different now. So it's always going to keep on changing. You always got to keep up. If you don't learn, you're going to get left behind. One of the most important soft skills to have is teamwork, working with the team. Because if you don't work well with the team, then things just start to deteriorate. You can't work well together. It really breaks down the whole team. So we always have the term team before self. We want to help the team, being helpful to others. Having that skill will just make other people like you and want to work with you and be like, oh, I got to work with that person. I got to go ask him for help. You don't want that. So you always want to be a good team player and help support your team, make your team better. What do you bring to the team that you can help? The next skill is being adaptable. Like we were talking about, the tech industry is always changing. So are businesses, so are teams. So we need to be able to change and shift gears and pivot in different directions. And the people that have been most adaptable have been most successful in their business. Instead of trying to just stick to one rigid way, they're able to adapt and move along and go with what's changing. That's one thing that's constant, is that things are always going to change. Customer service. Now, customer service, even if you're not on the support team, having good customer service skills, because you're always working with others. Maybe you're working with someone in a different department. Having good customer skills can help make everything run a lot smoother. Always putting the customer first, having understanding where they're coming from. Put yourself in their shoes. What trouble are they going through? How can you help them? That's always key, because then people are going to want to work with you. They're going to give you praise. They're going to be like, wow, that person really went the extra yard to help me out. So understanding the business. Remember, think business first and then tech second. So when you take the time to understand how the business works, they're going to see you not only as just, oh, that tech guy, but like, hey, like, I'm going to seek his advice. Problem solving. But maybe that's why you got into IT, is because you liked understanding certain how things worked, and if it didn't work, how can we fix it? And so that's a key skill to have across, and no matter which role you're in, you're always problem solving. You're always confronted with a problem, and sometimes they might be complex ones. And you change one thing, and it changes this, and it changes that, and so it can be kind of complex. It takes some critical thinking ability to be able to see what's the best and right path. Maybe there's not a perfect path, but what's the best one to go forward with. Servant leadership is where you actually put others ahead of yourself. I like to say, if your team was pulling a big boulder, you wouldn't be like telling them keep pulling, but you'd be pulling it with them. That's the servant leadership. So having those skills, even if no one reports to you, you don't have, you're just being on a team. That's how I kind of got started, is that, I was always willing to help others and take the lead, and I would never ask someone to do something that I wouldn't do. And so that would always help them to look to me as a leader, even though I wasn't saying like, oh, I'm your leader, follow me. But they wanted to. They come to me for advice because I really cared about them. So let's talk about how to develop these skills. The main one is to learn from others. You see someone that does something really well, like, oh wow, that person, he's a good communicator. Spend some time around them, ask them questions like, hey, how'd you learn how to be so good at that? Take little nuggets from them and then apply it. You need to practice it. Practice what you learned. And then you can better adopt that skill and develop that skill. There are tons of people who are experts in the area, and they're willing to give their advice for free, even if you don't know anybody. Like, you can look on YouTube videos. There's many people willing to share their experience and tips on how to learn. So there's a few ways that you can develop those soft skills, and it's by practicing. You learn something, then you practice it. Keep practicing, and over time, you'll get better at it. Job hunting tips on how we can do it. And the first one is creating your resume and a cover letter. Now, that's obvious. Everybody needs one. But I'm going to share with you some tips that will help you stand out from the rest. Because recruiters, managers, they get hundreds of resumes. How do you stand out from the rest? Well, the first one is tailor your resume to the job posting that you're looking to apply for. You take some of those keywords that are in the job resume, job posting, the roles and responsibilities, and put them in your resume. Now, what does that do? Well, it shows that you align with it, and don't, unless you actually don't have any experience, don't just add it just because you saw it there. But make sure you actually have experience in the area. But what that does is there's even tools that recruiters use that sift through the resumes, and what will help them is reading your resume matching it to the job description, and says, oh yeah, this resume has a 70% correlation to the job posting, or scoring, some sort of scoring. So the higher you score, the more likely you're going to be looked at. Your resume is going to be looked at. So that's why it's always good to tailor your resume just to that job and add those keywords in there. as long as they apply to what you've done. The other thing is to list your own achievements, not just what you do in your past work, but things that you've achieved in your past work. Even if it doesn't exactly relate to that job that you're trying to apply for, but there's learnings from it. Um, like, oh, I was able to migrate this one thing to this, right? I was able to build this program, and so they can see like, oh, this person's actually done something in their job that may be useful. Maybe not that specific thing, but that skill set that you've shown by what you've achieved. Writing a cover letter, not just about yourself, but about the company. So an idea might be, hey, there's a little bit about myself. I noticed about your company's website, that you're in high tech, you're in data. I actually want to get into data. I want a job in high tech. And it shows how you would be a good match for the company when you write that cover letter. And the last thing is, don't list anything that you can't back up. Um, that's I've done many interviews and for candidates, and when I would ask them a question about something they put on their resume and they have no idea about it, I was like, well, why do you have that on your resume? That's actually a negative in my book when you do that. Like, if you're going to put something on a resume, you have to be ready to talk about it. So make sure that you're doing that whenever you put something in your resume. Now, the other here is the most important one is networking. Um, that's actually how you're going to find the right job or a company that's willing to hire you. Have a LinkedIn profile. If you don't have one already, create one. If you have one, update it, because that does is recruiters, they're constantly searching. They're using LinkedIn to find possible candidates. Even for me, I get uh, messages in LinkedIn from recruiters saying, "Hey, we noticed that your LinkedIn profile is a good match for this open job we have," and I'm already employed, and but they're that's how they're finding people. So having a good LinkedIn profile, fill out all the things that it asks you to do there. Another one is uh, career fairs. Now, when I was in college, they had these career fairs, and so these are companies that are looking for people like you, the younger people, people who are just getting into their career, and they want to hire these people. So go to these career fairs. There might be virtual ones too. Be ready with your resume though. So you may not be able to tailor it to that specific job, but be ready to share it with them. Like, oh yeah, I have my job interview, my resume, and if you have any openings, maybe some of my skill sets might match what you're looking for. The third one here is word of mouth. Now, word of mouth is probably the best one because it's someone that you know that is able to vouch for you and be some kind of referral for you. And like something like 80% of jobs, we found a statistic saying that many percentage of jobs is filled by word of mouth referrals. So that's a huge thing. And I've actually, it's happened for me a couple of times with a couple of jobs that I've been in. Um, there was when I was getting out of college, I had a friend who worked for a company that they had summer internships. So he called me and says, "Hey, are you looking for a job in IT?" I said, "Yeah, I am. I'm getting out of school soon." And so he said, "Oh, well, they have internship programs. Here's how to apply. I'll send you the link, and you can put my name down as a referral." So I did that, and so that when they were reviewing my application, the hiring IT director called my friend that worked for the same company. He says, "Hey, do you know this person?" He says, "Oh yeah, I know him." And they asked him a few questions, so that actually helped me get my foot in the door to get to that internship. Another time, um, I had previously worked with another person at another company, and and then they got a job, and then they were building out a team, and they had an opening, and they called me and they say, "Hey, I have this opening on my team. Are you interested in filling it?" And that was just word of mouth. I didn't even know that there was an opening there. So those are ways of word of mouth is very important. Just telling people that you're looking for a job in this area, they'll think about you. Like next time they hear something, like, "Oh yeah, let me reach out to you and I'll tell you if I hear something." The last one here is local businesses. Now, I've done this as well too. Just reach out to local businesses that may be in tech that you're interested in. IT companies, there's like what they call managed service providers. You can go and reach out to them. You can talk to them and say, "Hey, you have any openings? Have your resume? Leave your resume with them. Visit the office." They may not even have an open position, but if you're there and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a job in this area. Do you have something?" Maybe they'd be like, "Well, not right now, but we'll keep it maybe in the future." Or maybe they might think about like, "Well, we could use some extra help. Let me reach out to this person who came by." So you're reaching out to these places. Maybe you might actually get an interview. Um, how do you prepare for that? Well, one is research common questions you might be asked. Be ready to answer these questions. I actually asked a Gemini over here to help me a bit. What type of questions would I be asked in an interview for an IT support role? And it came up all these questions like, what is the BIOS? What is the blue screen of death? Like everybody knows what the blue screen of death is. So those are technical questions. But then there's like, they'll ask you, describe. Have you any experience in remote troubleshooting? Um, how do you troubleshoot? They may even ask. There was one about, tell us a time when you made a mistake. How do you handle it? How do you handle it? There's also this method right here, the STAR method. Talks about when you're asked a situation to bring up an example. What's the situation? What's the task? What's the action? And what's the result? So if someone asked you, tell us a time when you were challenged with something that you hadn't done before, and you know, and how did you handle it? What was the outcome? So I'll give you one. So if someone asked me that, and I would say, well, there was this time when we were merging with another company. We're actually extracting our business unit out of one company and dropping it into another company. And so we had to discover um, all the different services and apps that we had in the existing company, and then find a place for them to go into the new company. And so we built out a project plan, we built out the list and all the requirements of each of those apps, and then we executed. We scheduled them and migrated each one of them over the course of 6 months. And so when we were completed with that, we completed on time. And what that did was that we were able to save the company hundreds of thousands of dollars, because if we hadn't moved out on time, then we would have been charged overage services fees or whatever it might be if we didn't get out on time. So that's an example if you have an example yourself of the situation that was happened, what you had to do, how you went about doing it, and then what was the result of it. So that was the STAR method. Have mock interviews. Ask someone, a friend, a family member. Say, hey, here's a list of questions. Can you pick one or a couple of the questions and ask me, and I need to be prepared for an answer. So that gets your mind thinking. So when you're in the interview, you're not like, oh no, I don't know what to say, and you freeze up. You're like, no, I've rehearsed this. I know what this is like. I'm ready to answer questions, even questions that I haven't practiced for, but I'm used to being questioned, and that will help you give good answers. Another thing is ask questions. I like it when I'm interviewing someone and someone asks me questions. I'll even pause during the interview and say, "Hey, do you have any questions for me?" Because as much as I'm interviewing you, you're interviewing me in the company if this is a good place for you to work. So have questions prepared if you're open to it. It shows your interest in the job and in the company. When people say, "Oh no, when I ask them if they have any questions, they say, "Oh no, you described that perfectly." I was like, "Well, I can't describe it perfectly in 30 minutes. Like there has to be something you're thinking about. You're not asking me." So be ready to ask questions. It shows you're interested in the job role and what you might be doing. because it's good for you. You want to know what the role would be involved with. The last one is stand out. Now, you want to stand out and leave a good impression on whoever's interviewing you. And you have to think about the hiring manager, the person that's interviewing. They may be interviewing dozens of people. I was interviewing multiple people a week, and sometimes honestly I lose track of who they are. It's like I may take some notes after the interview, but I don't remember all of them. So you need to be able to stand out in a good way. A couple ways of doing that is just being personable with the person. Try to build that connection with them. I know it's a short period of time, but you want to be able to say, like, when I'm interviewing someone, I'm saying, is this like if this was a one-on-one with the candidate, would this person be a good fit for our team? Would this person communicate well with me? Am I able to get my messages across? Do I understand them? So when you do those types of things, like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I really remember that person. Tell me stories of situations that you've been in. Like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. He did this, or he told me about this time. Um, so standing out so that when that person revisits your resume, like, oh yeah, I remember this person. Because sometimes you have a lot of people that you're interviewing, but you only grab a few candidates that you think are like the finalists for the role, and you want to be in one of those finalist spots. So you'll need to stand out in some way. The last thing, a pro tip is uh, go reach out, go back multiple times to the company you're interviewing with until you hear an answer is no. The answer might be yes, but you don't know unless you reach out or you just wait. One of the one example I have is actually I was is actually back in when I was in high school and I was interviewing for a job. I actually interviewed for the job already, and it was actually my mother. She asked me, she's like, "Oh, did you hear back from that job?" I said, "No, I haven't. I interviewed for it. It seemed to go okay." And she said, "Well, why don't you go out there and see if the job's still open or if they filled it or if they want to hire you or not?" I said, "Just go unannounced?" She said, "Yeah, just go." I said, "Okay." So I got in my car, I left. I went to that office building, and I actually got to meet the owner of the business. Whereas before, when I interviewed, I didn't have I interviewed with someone else, and so I went and I got to chat with the owner just for a couple minutes, and he said, "Well, um, let me think about it." I asked, is it the job still open? You going to hire me?" And he said, "Let me think about it." I said, "Okay." At least I was present. He got to see who I was. I was interested in the job. I came back. And so I said, "Okay, well, at least I got that done." So I walked out, walking to the parking lot to my car. And then the guy who interviewed me the first time came out and he says, "Oh, the owner thought about it. He said, yeah, we're going to hire you." So I came back into the office, filled out some paperwork, and I started there, I think, a week later or something. So that's just an example of what you can do, reaching out to people multiple times. That shows their interest in the job, and you're not bugging them. You're just showing, like, hey, like, I want this job. I would like to have it. Let me know. Yeah, either way, yes or no, if I'm going to get it or not. Do you ever wonder what the hiring manager is thinking when you're in the interview? Well, I'm an IT manager and I'm actually hiring people on my team. And so I'm going to share with you the top 5 traits that I'm thinking about when I'm interviewing someone. The first one is attitude. Now, the saying is, you can always teach someone new skills, but you can't teach someone good attitude. So the attitude is the most important thing. When you're interviewing someone, you're interacting with them, I'm thinking, does that person have the right attitude? So I wouldn't suggest that you be someone that you're not, but be yourself and show that you have a good attitude, that you'd be someone that they'd be wanting to work with you. The second one is team fit. So I'm thinking about my other team members and how this person I'm interviewing, how they would fit in with the team. Sometimes I even have my other team members interview that person too, and I'll go back and ask them like, hey, what did you think about this person? Do you think this is someone that we could work with and would be a good fit in our team? So my tip to you would be to show that you're a team player. Use examples how you worked well with other team members, your managers, and show them that so that they could be like, oh, okay, this person is a team player. They're interested in helping the team and not just thinking about yourself. The third one is communication. Now, communication is key because if you can't communicate well, it's not going to really work out. So when I'm interviewing someone, I'm kind of thinking about like if this was a potential one-on-one with the person, and can we communicate? Can we get our ideas and thoughts across to each other? Do we understand each other? Sometimes there's a language barrier because it's not their first English is not their first language. So thinking about can I communicate with this person is really key. Thinking about how you communicate to your that manager as your potential manager. How are you going to communicate your thoughts in a clear way so that they can understand? The fourth one is ability. Now, I'm looking to see, can this person do the job? And I don't know, because I don't really know the person, so I'm trying to pull that out from them. And so my tip is to show the manager how you've done similar jobs or similar projects and how you've completed them, either you were successful at them, and that will kind of give them a little bit of confidence, like, okay, I think this person has the ability and they can do the job. The fifth one is desire to learn new things. Especially in tech, you're always constantly learning new things, there's things changing. And so I'm looking to see if this person actually wants to keep on learning. So it would be good to be talking with the manager of like things that you are learning or you want to learn, and that you want to keep on learning new things. You want to expand your knowledge and experience. Now, I know I said five, but there's actually a sixth one that's very important that I'm thinking about is their potential. Not where this person is right now or what job they're applying for, but what's their potential? Could they fit other jobs, other roles that we may need in the future? Because I don't want just someone to fit in one role and be stagnant there. I want that person to keep on growing. So I'm looking at their potential. So when you're talking to the manager, show that you have that potential, like, hey, I can do this job and I can learn new things and I can do other jobs as well. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you made it to the end, I hope that brought some value to you. If you're looking for more, I have a website down in the link in the description, or check out one of my other videos that will help you even, let's say you get into a job, how can you be successful? How can you grow your career in IT? All right, have a good one.